All right. Well, welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard, the super heavyweight. And if you do want to talk or you get your comments across, hit me up on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle down here, super heavyweight. I'll try to answer any questions and get your comments on here. And tonight, I was a very special guest. I'm very honored to have him on. I call him the Steph Curry of ESPN, ESPN writer Rick Brown. Rick Brown, glad to have you on, man. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and what you're working on.
Hey, what's up, folks? This is Rick Brown. You can always find me on Twitter at Rick Brown 91. That's at Rick Brown 91. Working for today's pigskin.com now, and this site is part of the Fan Rag um, home base per se, and they're doing a real good job, and they're really a nice um, up and coming website, and
Yeah,
I've been working for them for a year now, and I love the changes that they're doing and the strides they're making. So please check out today'spigskin.com, and you can find me anywhere. Usually it's NFC South stuff, but I'm still doing some stuff on the annual meetings that just passed. So you can find me almost anywhere there.
all right. Well, we're gonna touch on that a little bit later on. And folks, if you do get a chance, I love today's pigskin. I've been checking it out. I've gotten a lot of useful information, a lot of things that I've kind of had questions about, wasn't sure about, and I've been able to get on today's pigskin and read some really good articles and get a little bit of clarification on some things. So please check it out if you can, and it's definitely worth the time. So Rick, the off season this is the most painful part of the NFL season. If you are a football fan, this is the most painful time of the year right now because you're done with your combines, you're waiting for the draft, and fortunately, but unfortunately, I know the Bucs are going to get to practice first because they do have a new head coach in place, and I'm really hoping and praying that this is the guy. I really am, because the inconsistencies, I've talked about this on many of my podcasts. The inconsistencies have hurt the Bucs over the past decade, and we've gotten to a point where I think we're going in the right direction. I think the general manager, I'm a lot more comfortable with where we are than I was at the end of the season with the firing of the former head coach. So I'm a little bit more comfortable, but it still remains to be seen the product that they're going to put on the field. And I kind of want to get your thoughts when you're talking about the meetings, the owners' meetings, and what are your thoughts on the general manager and the head coach and what they're doing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Well, we don't get to see them right now because there's no contact. As you say, this is kind of the worst part of the year. But on paper, it looks like Jason Light, who's the general manager, is doing a good job. I mean, he's not. There's no real big names, so there's no real splash players. I mean, we've heard of Robert Grimes, basically because he's been in the NFC South, or he started there at least. Uh, Robert Ayers, good player, but it seems they're getting their needs right now. They're getting solid players, solid veterans who can come in and can not only step in right away and help, but can also mentor the younger guys. And I think that's really big here. So these guys are good character guys. We haven't heard about too much drama from the players themselves off the field. So that's a good move. So on paper, it seems like they're doing well.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know. We won't know until the bullets actually start flying. But for now, I have to admit I like the moves that they've made so far.
Yeah. And one question that will get answered, and it really puzzled me a lot, was the Buccaneers defense. And to me, that was the Achilles heel of this team. And you lose as a team, you win as a team. I understand. But there were a lot of times where all the defense had to do was hold a lead. All the defense had to do was get a 3 and out. All the defense had to do was not get that back-breaking penalty, and we saw a lot of that. And the corners getting beat. I talked about this last week on the show. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but these are things that had to get fixed. And unfortunately, you wonder, was it the play calling? Was it the personnel? And according to what you're seeing right now, and you don't hear any words about it, but what you're seeing right now is the Buccaneers administration is saying, I don't think it was so much the players as it was the play calling. And you haven't seen a lot of turnover on defense. You have seen some players, your Sterling Moore, Danny Lansana, players like that the Buccaneers have let walk. And then there hasn't been the core is still there. Your Quan Alexander, Levante David, Gerald McCoy. They re-signed Chris Conte, and they brought in players. Jonathan Banks. I don't want to forget him, and Altron Werner. I believe that this was a good move to get a defensive coordinator in there who will call the defensive plays and take that off the head coach's plate. And I think that right there in itself is going to be a good move. I really believe that Lovey took a lot on himself by becoming the play caller as well as handling the rest of the coaching duties. And I've only seen a handful of coaches that have been able to pull that off. And, I don't know. It just, to me, that defense looked lost. It didn't look like it had a direction. The pass rush wasn't what I would expect it to be. I don't expect to see Simeon Rice, but I do expect to see a little bit more productivity getting after the quarterback, and we just didn't see those things. So I don't know. Do you feel that way, or how do you feel about what you saw? And the question will get answered this year if it was a play calling or if it was the personnel.
And I will definitely agree with that. I mean, this year we will see a lot. A lot of questions will be answered. That being one of them. I disagree. Only that I don't mind if the head coach called the defensive plays because you see it on offense a whole lot. You see a Peyton here in New Orleans. He's the first one that comes to mind. I want to say Jason Garrett does it in Dallas. Not totally sure, but I think he does. Jay Gruden. I'm sorry, John Gruden. Sorry about that. Jay Gruden up in Washington. I know he calls his own plays. You see a lot more of it on offense. I think Rob Ryan called the defensive plays uh, where he was in the Jets as well as in Buffalo. I think he did. So you just don't see it as much on defense. Although Raheem Morris did eventually start calling his own plays, and the defense got better. Well, what I like about by calling your own plays, if you can do it, is that you know what you want,
Right.
and you can get the players to do that, to do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, this defense last year seemed too tentative, especially in the corner situation, in the cornerbacks. There are a lot of times where the corners, I think, were afraid to make mistakes. They didn't know whether in this zone should they play 12 yards off or should they play 7 yards off? Should they do it the entire field or once you got inside the 20, should you step in? It was a lot of, I don't want to say miscommunication, but
Uncertainty.
uncertainty. Uncertainty, exactly, amongst the defense, especially the corners and safeties as well. Even though you had two components of Lovey's old defense there, Chris Conte, he's back. Major Wright, he's back at safety. So we will see under Mike Smith whether we should see a difference at least.
To that point, I think the most frustrating thing for me, because I love defense. I mean, I'm happy with what Tampa does with the offense, but I'm a defensive guy. I love defense. I love the schemes. I love to watch the chess match between a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, and the carousel of cornerbacks frustrated me only because these guys aren't getting repetition. There's no repetition here. You're scared to make a mistake. Your job as a cornerback, if you get burnt, you got to have amnesia. You got to get back out there and play again. And don't let that affect the rest of the game for you. But what I saw was you made a mistake, you're out. Tim Jennings, uh, Jonathan Banks, Altron Werner, uh, and anybody else that was thrown in that mix, Sterling Moore and my man Jude, uh, you had all these different players, and there was just no consistency in that secondary. And I think a lot of that kind of goes back to the front four not getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, to that point, I did see a lot of slants and a lot of subpar quarterbacks that were racking up major yards because Tampa wasn't defending that slant.
Indeed, I mean, and the slant that was that used to just kill them inside the red zone, and you wonder why,
It's
why you
very
know it's
basic. You,
coming.
you
That's
know,
what you
you,
don't.
you learn about it in high school and Pee Wee and Pop. The slant is the first thing you learn how to defend against.
You do not give up the inside. You do not. You let the outside be your another defender, your help.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. But these guys, and there were a few times where you would see that linebackers out of position. You would see safeties out of position. I mean,
Right.
so it wasn't just the corners they were
Right.
there, but a lot of it was. And I really think it was because one thing you didn't see with the corners last year is they didn't get beat deep too often over the top. And because they were playing so far back,
Right. Yeah.
so they would give up the underneath and you're supposed to make the tackle when you do that.
Right.
But we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not a guy who fell into the cover two scheme is out of date. Because you know why? There are two reasons why.
Carolina.
Number one, the Bucs didn't play cover two that often. Honestly, they really didn't. They
Mm-mm.
played a lot of
They were
single
a three
safety
man,
high.
three high man, right?
Or a single safety high. They played
Yeah.
a lot of darn. It wasn't just a cover two. Trust
Right.
me on that.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned 3-man high, definitely. Uh,
You know what? You know what I will say, and this is another thing that really confused me. I look at Levante David, and I think he wasn't. And I'm not knocking. I love Lovey. I was one of the. I was on the bandwagon. When he got here. What I saw, just like I said, it just frustrated me and confused me. You've got Levante David faking a blitz, and then he's not gonna. They know he's not gonna blitz. He's out of position because he's trying to get back to where he's supposed to be. And I saw this on multiple occasions, and it was just frustrating. Let the man play what use him to his strengths. I mean, we're fortunate that he was able to make it to a Pro Bowl. I'm glad that everybody got to see him, and I think that this is going to be more Pro Bowls for in the future for this guy because of getting that exposure. But I really do believe that they didn't get the most out of Levante David that they could have, and that's a disservice to him.
he started off slow, most definitely,
Yeah, yeah,
and he admitted it because he was trying to figure out what he should be, where he should go,
right,
what he should do.
right,
Which in the second year of the defense, it shouldn't have been the case. It really
right.
shouldn't have been that case.
But it looked
Uh,
like things changed. Now, would you agree? It looked like things changed from the first year of the Lovie Smith era to the second year. That defense didn't look the same as it did the year before.
nah, it didn't
It was
at
less
all.
aggressive.
I don't know about less aggressive.
And the reason I say that, and the reason the one game that sticks out to me is the Philadelphia Eagles game, where that defense they had their ears pinned back and they were going and getting it. The corners, everybody was playing where they needed to play, and that's what you could have expected when the Bucs were firing on all cylinders. And that's the one game that stood out to me where Tampa's defense was aggressive from beginning to end. They were getting it. And other than there are a couple other games that we could talk about. The Atlanta Falcons game at home, I felt like Tampa's defense was pretty aggressive, but overall, I just felt like they played off. They weren't pressing anybody, and that's kind of what I saw.
Uh, uh, you know, there's a couple of things that are important here that we cannot forget. Number one, Gerald McCoy was playing with one shoulder all year, for most of the year, at least for 14 games, and so he wasn't, despite not being the beast that I'm used to seeing, he was still darn good last year
Oh,
for,
absolutely.
for playing with one arm, especially at that position. He was still demanding double teams, and no one else could get off.
Right.
Number two, those last four games, the Bucs were missing.
Quan Alexander.
Yes, and no matter what you say, or no one else can tell me he was the most consistent guy on that team for most of the year,
Heart and soul.
or on the defensive side anyway.
Yeah.
And losing him, it was just a snowball effect that they couldn't recover from. And so I am excited to see how a healthy McCoy with Levante David, who's more hyped than ever now after making the Pro Bowl, as well as Quan Alexander, who is going to come back with a vengeance because he
Yeah.
lost 4 games last year. It will be interesting. I'm excited to see that. I want to see it because this defense has to play better than they did last year. No bones about it. No questions about it. They have to play better to give that team a chance because next year's schedule, I don't care what anyone says, it's not an easy schedule.
It's
Just
brutal.
but again, we're looking at it on paper, and, and so it's not an easy schedule,
Mm,
in my humble opinion.
not at
So we're
all.
gonna see.
Yeah, you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. You talk about the Oakland Raiders, who a lot of people are sleeping on. They've made some major moves in the offseason. We'll wait to see what they do in the draft. The San Diego Chargers, always a dangerous team. The Seattle Seahawks, dangerous team. The San Francisco 49ers under new head coach Chip Kelly, dangerous team. You've got right here the Arizona Cardinals. They're reloading and they're ready to compete for a playoff spot. Dangerous team. All these teams, and you sprinkle in the Dallas Cowboys, who have a healthy Tony Romo, and the new addition of Alfred Morris. So this will be that team. This will be a season to really see where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stack up against top tier teams.
I totally agreed, and you took the words out of my mouth. That's why to me it was surprising that they let Lovey go. I'm still, but hey, they
at
did
this
that.
at this point at this point you kind of you know you have to be honest here. Let's put aside I put aside my fandom for a minute, and I have to say that Jason Light wants to win now. I mean, he said it in his press conference. He's alluded to it I don't know how many other times. He wants to win now. This isn't about rebuilding. I understand that the reality is this team is what it is, but to me, Jason Light, he wants to win. He felt like that Lovey could have been, basically, I'm gonna come out and say it. He felt like Lovey was a reason that this team didn't win more games. I originally predicted Tampa to win 10 games prior to the season starting, and a lot of people thought I was nuts. We won 6 games, and there were so many other games. Had the right personnel been available, had we had a decent kicker in the first couple of games of the season, you're talking about shoulda, coulda, woulda. I know, but it could have been a different situation. So to me, I understand it that they want to keep that continuity. They want to keep that consistency. They wanted to keep Dirk Cutter in the fold. They felt like bringing Mike Smith in will further this defense, and it will. This untested product on paper. It looks like they have made improvements, and it remains to be seen at the beginning of the season. Going in, I always check out the first 6 games before I know this is what you're up against. And or you have some kind of idea. I don't pay attention to training camp. Training camp is I don't have to hit my guys, I get to hit your guys. And it's it's live bullets, as you mentioned. And but it doesn't count, but it's better than hitting my guys in camp all the time. And so we'll see if that is the case. Now,
But hold on,
I
hold on. Before you go on, I have to I have to jump in here just
okay.
because of this. You know, yes, yes, Jason wants to win now, and the Glazers want to win now. I have no problems with that, none whatsoever. But when Levy took this job, there was a plan. The plan was the first few years was to build through the draft and get offensive players, and then fill in defensively until the third year when you would start with the defense. They were going according to plan. And while you had 10 games, you were one of the few on the high side because I had 6 games flat out. And when they were 6-6, I thought may have been a little low, but still, I had 6 games looking at it at the beginning of the season. And at the beginning of the season, if you would have told a lot of people they would have won 6 games coming off of 2-14 with a rookie quarterback, they would have said, okay, there's improvement. There was improvement, but I think people got a little ahead of themselves, got a little greedy, and the rest is history. I hate going back because what's done is done now, but still.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
had to get that on my chest.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You know what? And if you watched my podcast right after it happened, I was furious. I was livid. I was very, I would say I was very negative. For me being a lifelong Bucks fan, I was very negative about that move. And let me explain, where I'm coming from. For the past 2 years, and I'll get into, I'm going to allude to something that Dirk Cutter said. For the past 2 years, I've been saying the model franchise for building a bad team into a good team, is the Carolina Panthers. Been saying this. I've been preaching this. I've been saying this to everybody that'll listen to me. Look at the Carolina Panthers. Okay, you had Ron Rivera who comes in from the previous coach 2-14. Ron Rivera comes in, weathers the storm of a bad season where everybody in Carolina wanted him out the door. You know what? The ownership said, no, we're not going to do that. This is our guy. They brought in a general manager who knew what he was doing, and they were suffering in salary cap hell for a little bit because they couldn't get a free agent or anything. But you know what they did? They built through the draft. They get some low risk, high reward free agents, some guys that names that you don't even think about, and they let Ron Rivera coach this team, and they stayed consistent. And from that point forward to now, the rest is history. You saw what they did. That is the business model. Don't listen to the fans. The
mhm.
fans, if the fans were general managers, I could tell you about 80% of the fans, if they were general managers, a team would be winless. Okay? I'm being honest here. Don't
Yeah.
listen to the fans. Do what you know will work to get you a winning product, because this is an investment. Owners are investing in these players. Owners are investing in this team. They want a winning product. And unfortunately for Tampa, Tampa has jumped the gun. And you know what? I know I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but Raheem Morris did not get a chance. If Raheem Morris was going to get fired, then Mark Dominic should have gotten fired for putting that product on the field. Okay? I'm sorry. At the end of 2011, when you looked at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from top to bottom, none of those players, with the exception of maybe 5 or 6, could have started or even been on the bench on any of the other 31 teams in the NFL. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I can't tell you you're wrong. And you're talking about Raw. They did not spend any money for him. They
Exactly.
did
And
not.
he brought up and he got a 10-6 record because of a stupid tiebreaker. They don't go to the playoffs. Now, to me, I look at this. Joe McCoy was the heart and soul of the defense. When Joe McCoy went down, the whole team went down. Josh Freeman, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. I know, like I said, I'll catch a lot of criticism for saying this. Josh Freeman was not properly coached. There was not enough emphasis on Josh Freeman. I'm sorry, but there wasn't. You can say what you want to. You look at Josh Freeman in high school, you look at Josh Freeman in college. Ron Prince is a horrible coach. That's why he's not coaching now. Ron Prince was horrible. He comes into Tampa, a team that's on the upswing, and he still doesn't get that coach in there to get him where he needs to be. You look at what Jim Harbaugh did for who's my quarterback in Kansas City? Um,
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. You look what he did to Alex Smith. He did for Alex Smith. You look what he did for Colin Kaepernick. And that's the kind of coach that's a quarterback friendly coach that can get you where you need to be, help you to your strengths instead of your weaknesses. And I'm sorry, but I just did not feel like Josh Freeman got that while he was in Tampa. Well, a few years later on, he did a little bit, depending on Olsen did a good job with him. But for the most part, overall, Josh Freeman didn't get that quarterback-friendly coach to get him where he needed to be. And unfortunately, he is what he is now.
I'm a Greg Olson fan. I think Greg Olson reminds me a lot of Dirk Cutter in a whole lot of ways, and so it is going to be interesting this year to see how the relationship between Cutter and Jameis Winston goes, because it's going to have to change because Dirk Cutter now he doesn't just have the offense now, he has the whole team. So
Right.
he can't give as much attention to Jameis Winston. Mike Bajakian is still there,
Mm-hmm.
which is big. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to see now how their relationship goes from here.
I really do believe that the Buccaneers have thought long and hard about this. I do believe that this offensive coordinator is, according to what they're saying, he's an offshoot of Dirk Cutter. And I'm hoping what they're trying to do is keep that continuity to where they're not missing a beat. And like when we keep saying this, we keep prefacing this, you cannot know until the live bullets fly, what this team is going to show you, because you have an unproven product right now at this point. And we haven't even hit the draft yet. But what we're looking at right now on paper is a team that they've tried to keep that consistency. They feel like they've upgraded with the defensive coordinator position. That's why they've kept the majority of their players. They brought in some good players on free agency. I'm not upset with the moves that they've made, to this point. And I understand with the Lovie Smith, me and you are on the same page with that, and we kind of have to move forward, because here's where we are right now.
Yeah, yeah,
But
it is what it is.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So here's where we are right now, and I have to say, man, I really do believe that Tampa, they're taking the right steps, and if to be honest, if Jason Light can get half the picks that he got last year to be able to contribute right out of the gate, can you imagine what kind of foundation you've built for this team moving forward for years to come?
Indeed, I do feel this is a very important draft for the Bucks, in that just to continue the momentum of his first two drafts. Uh, Very important. On that note, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you do with Mike Glennon?
You know, I originally, and let me say this. And Peter Blake, he crucifies me every chance he gets. Mike Glennon was that guy. I felt like he needed a full season to prove himself. I don't count his rookie season. He had a good rookie season. I felt like when all the coaching changes and all the offensive changes came about, very good guy in the locker room, nothing toxic about him. He was totally usurped, never got a chance to compete for the starting position. They brought in a new quarterback, and they pretty much anointed him. And what I thought was going to happen that didn't happen was Mike Glennon would come in and compete and win for that starting position while Josh McCown was out. That didn't happen. And I don't want to say it's the offense's fault or defense's fault. Great quarterbacks rise to the occasion. And when you've got a Mike Evans and a Vincent Jackson and a host of other receivers and running backs, there's no reason you can't make a name for yourself and put yourself in a position where the coaches say, hey, this guy could be my starter. This guy could get us to the playoffs. That didn't happen. And unfortunately, I'm at a point where I've seen enough film on Mike Glennon to know that he's a backup. They brought in Jameis Winston. If it were me, and I'm putting on my general manager's hat now, I probably would, and you probably won't agree with this, if the right trade package came along, I would trade him. It would have to be a second-round pick. And if you're bringing in a player, it would have to be a player that I could totally plug into my defense or offense and immediately get results from them. If that's not the case, I would keep Mike Glennon as a backup just in case Jameis Winston goes down. And just that would be it for the season, because I can tell you right now, and you've heard me say this, and I'm saying this again on this podcast, if Mike Glennon does not get signed by somebody this year, he's going to get paid an ungodly amount of money next year by some team desperate for a starting quarterback.
Yeah, which could be a mistake on their behalf, but
Oh,
we're looking.
absolutely. You look at Brock Osweiler and Flynn. Flynn, great examples right there. But I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying that they're going to overpay Mike Glennon an ungodly amount of money if somebody does not sign him this year.
And I can see that happening. The Bucs have to decide, and I wrote this week on today's com that the Bucs have to decide. Do they want to? Is a draft pick worth losing a valuable backup? And why I say this is Jameis played every snap last year, and
What
he
did he
was
take? Like
one of
he took like 99 hits or something, 100 hits or something like that last
yeah,
year. Something
and not only
disgusting.
that, I mean, he was one of what 5 maybe quarterbacks to play the entire year, to take every snap. Maybe
Yeah,
5 quarterbacks. It
yeah.
doesn't happen too often. This is what I'm saying. And so, to although you don't want to see your backup in there, more than likely they're going to get in at some point of the season.
Right.
Do you trust Ryan Griffin enough? Do you trust him enough? You've never seen him except in preseason games. So yes, and I know practice and all that. You know what?
No, it's not the same.
Practice in the NFL is all great, but it's not the same as the regular game. And there's so much that you have to learn that Mike Glennon has been through. So, and I know Mike wants to be a starter somewhere. I respect that. If he didn't,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't want him on my team.
Right.
At the same time, if I'm the Bucs, I'm not making it easy for him to leave. And maybe I would
Absolutely.
offer him a 2-year extension because I'm just saying I like him. I like him more because I know what he is
Right.
than the unknown in
Right.
Griffin.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Exactly. So that's why I just posed that question to you. Like I said,
And you know what? And just think about this. I think the one thing that Buccaneers fans should be happy about is Mike Glennon's demeanor. Mike
yeah,
Glennon passed up. He's a starting quarterback. He comes in for Josh Freeman, who gets benched. He's a starting quarterback for this regime. He gets automatically, no competition whatsoever, he gets totally demoted to second string quarterback, and they bring in Josh McCown, a career backup, to start over him, who ends up getting injured, and Glennon is ready to come in and answer the call. Nothing toxic about this guy. You see him interacting with Jameis Winston. He is the prototypical NFL quarterback that you would want on your team because of how he is. He's a true team player. He's a teammate. I know
He's
he
a
wants
professional.
exactly, exactly. And the one thing that I will say about him is you watch him on the sidelines and how attentive he is to what's going on the field. He's trying to hone his craft. So I cannot, you can't knock that. That's a guy who's wanting to learn. He's not come into the league and said, okay, I've been in the league for 3 years, 2 years. I know what I'm talking about. He's continually trying to learn. So, it's been a pleasure to have somebody like that in a backup position that that if anything happens to our starting quarterback, this guy can come in and make it happen. So, I'm really excited about that.
As well you should be. My last question to you is this: if Hargreaves is there at 9, if no, I'll just leave it there. Do you take him?
Absolutely. And you know what? This is a 360 for me, and I can 100% admit when I'm wrong about anything. You'll hear me on this podcast. If I was wrong the week before or the week before that, if I was wrong, I'll come on here and tell you I was wrong. I watched the tape on Vernon Hargraves, and the one thing that I saw is he's susceptible to the double move. But to me, that's coachable. That's minute compared to the playmaking abilities that he has. He has excellent ball skills. The guy has a nose for the ball. And, that's the one thing that I've come to watch. I watched him in the combines. I watched him on his pro day. I watched his pro day about 4 times just to watch him, just to watch his demeanor, his body language, just to see what he is. And I'm going to tell you right now, if he was available, I would take him over Joey Bosa. And that's saying a lot for me, because I know that Joey Bosa is going to be successful in the NFL. I feel like his skill set will be successful in the NFL. It will translate, and he will have a smooth transition to the NFL. So for me to say that, and I hate Ohio State. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's the worst school in the universe. I can't stand Ohio State. But when you put all that aside, the fandom aside, and the talent is there, Joey Bosa is going to be successful wherever he goes. I'm thinking he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong here. And in the beginning, I was thinking that Dallas may surprise everybody and grab a running back, but with the addition of Alfred Morris, that's off the table to me. And I feel like you're going to grab the best player on the board, and it would have to be at that point a Joey Bosa if he hasn't already been grabbed. So I think there's a very good possibility that Vernon Hargraves falls into our lap, and I think that Tampa would be crazy not to take him.
Tampa Bay has put itself in a wonderful situation now with the additions in the offseason to take the best
Grab
player available.
grab the best player on the board. You're
Right.
exactly right.
And this is what you want. This is the position you want to be in because now you're building for depth. Now you're building long term. Now it's not about need, it's about long
The,
term
Exactly.
stability.
You're building that foundation. You're building that foundation out. You've got your core players now. Let's build that foundation out. And you're going to get to a point, and that's what I expected to see from Tampa is you've got your core players, you're building your foundation. Now in the off season, this is where you can plug players in, low risk, high reward players, kind of like what Carolina's doing. I really hope that at the end of the day, this is what I'm hoping for, that they get somebody who in the first round is an impact player. And I look at what the former general manager has done in the draft, and I think that has really hamstrung the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up to Jason Light coming in here. So I'm excited. I'm excited again. I've gotten over the whole Lovie Smith thing, and I'm back on board, and I see what Tampa's trying to do, and I see the improvements they're trying to make. So to me, I'm excited. Now, I do want to switch gears, and I talked to you about this before earlier on. Number 31, former Buccaneer E. and J. Biggers. And I call him E. and J. Biggers because I had to drink a lot of E. and J when that guy was on the field. My liver still hates that guy to this day. When I call him E. and J. Biggers, is because I needed a lot to drink when I watched this guy line up on a receiver. So I'm asking you, and I'm trying to understand this. He goes from Tampa, he goes to Washington, and he starts. He goes from Washington, he goes to the Eagles, and he starts. I do not get it. I've watched him repeatedly. I've watched his footwork. I've watched his ball skills. I cannot figure out, other than maybe his agent has compromising photos or a compromising sex tape or something, for this guy to keep getting positions and jobs when there are other players out there on the street that aren't getting anything. Please help me understand this. Please help me understand this.
Roger Goodell, I am your father. Wait a minute, hold on. Roger Goodell, I am your father. No, listen, the one thing that I've always liked about EJ is that he comes to work every day. He brings, even though he's from a small school, he's from Miami, and he brings
Yes.
that swag every day. He's not loud. He doesn't do the talking or anything, but he's always had a confidence in him from his rookie year.
Yeah,
And he told me when he said, "Hell, if I don't believe it, who will?" So this is EJ. He does what the coach tells him to do. If the coach tells him to go bump and run against Dez Bryant, he's going to bump and run against Dez Bryant. If the coach tells him to play cover three, he's going to play cover three. He does what the coach tells him to do, and that's why he continues to get jobs. And you know what? He's not afraid of anybody. He's going to give it his all. He may not, his skill level may not be as good as uh, Jonathan Banks.
Yeah, 4 career interceptions. I'll help you with
You
that.
know, but he's going to give you what you ask of him. And if you don't ask him to be a starter, if you just want a few
Yeah,
plays a game from him, 12, 15 plays a game, he's going to give you that. And he's going to get balls out. Good locker room guy, meaning always positive, not going to uh, come down on anybody but himself. The first person he blames when he messes up is himself. Has always done that since his rookie year. Uh, I like the kid personally. I have always liked him just because of his accountability. And playing cornerback is not easy in the NFL. And he's been asked to play corner, safety, nickel, outside, inside, taking the popcorn out. Sometimes, even when he's not ready to do it. But he's never complained. He's never done anything but what you ask him to do. That's why he continues to get jobs. And now, where is he? New England.
yep,
Now,
exactly.
so he just and it's because he continues to work.
Right.
And people, when you work hard, I mean, you're going to continue to get chances.
Yeah,
And and that's why. That's why. I mean, yeah, you've seen him get burnt sometimes.
a
Uh,
lot. Go ahead.
yeah, but it's not because of a lack of effort. And
Right.
a lot of times, those were busts not because of EJ, but because of others. Uh, a lot of times in zone, and he'll be like, "Oh snap!" when he's supposed to have over the top help, he does it, and you see 31 chasing behind.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's all I ever saw on ESPN. So yeah,
you
I
know.
understand what you're saying.
So I mean,
And you bring a, and that's a great point. And that's the one thing that I was unsure of. Is it because of his locker room presence? Is it because he doesn't complain? He just comes to work and he's ready to work. And that I wasn't, and that's why I came to you, because I know that you, as a Washington fan, me as a Tampa fan, you had a chance to see him quite a bit in his time in Washington, and you got to really assess, from a fan perspective as well as a professional perspective, what you really thought of him and his skill set.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I, I could see him easily as a nickel corner. I think he's built for it, and I think he's a guy. If you need him to play outside, I think he can play outside. I just don't want him outside for 65 plays.
You know what, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I could actually see him as a nickel corner,
Yeah,
and I think that
he's
would
quick
be a
enough.
good. I
He's quick.
think that would be a good. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think his 40 speed is what sold the Bucks on drafting him.
Well, I'm not even talking about his 40 speed. I just like his side to side movement, and he
Yeah. But
attacks.
but
He's not afraid.
yeah, and that's good to be fearless. I mean, that's what you need, that to play in that position. You need to have that confidence, and you need to be able to. Hey, I forgot about that play. I'm ready for the next play. And you heard me talk about that earlier in the show. That's what you need for your starting cornerback.
Definitely.
Now, when you talk about needs, this is a great segue back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you have so eloquently answered my question. Now, back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What are the needs of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point? We've gone through free agency. We may have a second wave of free agency after June. But at this point, going into the draft, do you think your secondary or your pass rush is lacking? Which is more lacking, the secondary or the pass rush?
Wow. 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 Because the secondary and the pass rush goes hand in hand. I mean, you need a pass rush to have to give your cornerbacks some plays, and you
Right,
need your
and
cornerbacks,
it's less
and
time,
you need
and
your
it's
cornerbacks to stay a second longer to help your pass rush. Wow. What do I think? I think if Hargreaves is on the board, you take him. I don't care who else is out there.
right.
I think you take him because
Yeah,
he's the best player, and then I think second round you come back with a defensive end. I think you develop Howard Jones, who showed flashes last year of
what did
being
he end up with? Six sacks, 7 sacks,
five. I think
five
only
sacks.
five, six maybe,
Okay.
but still he showed some flashes.
Hmm.
Jockey Smith, you hope he is healthy. He
Yeah,
had 7.5 last year,
and some
and
fumble recoveries.
yeah, and he continues to get better.
Yeah.
Uh, I still like Will Golston in that run stopping um, role, and I think he can develop into a good player. Um, and then you have some other guys there who, well,
Oh,
I'm not.
absolutely.
So,
And to that point, and that's why I say, because when I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers overall, the one thing that really, like I mentioned it early in the show, that disappointed me was that pass rush. Gerald McCoy was injured. I understand that. I get that. But Gerald McCoy was still garnering double teams. Somebody else has to step up.
mm,
Somebody else has to become dominant, so that you have to balance out that line, and you can't just double team Joe McCoy, because some of these other guys are getting in here. Somebody has to step up. And to me, and this is, I don't, I'm not a football guru. I'm not a never been a head coach, but I will say this: your front four getting pressure on the quarterback, giving him less time to scan the field, is a blessing for your secondary. And I think this, to me, the front four, that pass rush, the edge rushers, whoever you have up there, it makes a big difference. If and I know that there have been rumors. I really don't know until we see it. But Muhammad Wilkerson coming in to Tampa, sit alongside of a Gerald McCoy, you don't know what that could do. All I'm gonna say is somebody on this defense on the front four needs to step up. They need to consistently. You look at Warren Sapp and what Warren Sapp was able to do. I hate to compare him because he's a Hall of Famer and he's a freak of nature, but he continually provided headaches for that quarterback, for that offensive line. You didn't want to face Tampa because you knew you had to face Warren Sapp, and he was relentless,
Well,
relentless.
but also, hey, don't leave the sim master out
Oh
because
no, no, I'm not at all. I'm
sim
just
with
I'm
sim there, I thought Warren went to the next level because
right,
they couldn't just concentrate on Big 99 in the middle. They had to worry about 97 on that outside as well, and
right, absolutely,
that made it easier for both of them, I believe.
yeah.
So I do see
Well,
what you're saying. I do. I
you
understand that. I see that. Although I think when you ask me need, what do they need? I don't. They need stability on that offensive line. That's what they need. They need ASJ to be
stay
that guy that they think he is. Those are things that
and
they need to continue to
when
do
you
what 22 does.
right, and I've heard heard stories about how this guy was unstoppable in camp. I mean, the defense could not stop him when they threw the ball and it was up near his hands. He, with his size, nobody could stop him. But unfortunately, that injury has kind of set his career back. And when I worry, I'm concerned about Mike Evans and Austin Safarian Jenkins not staying healthy, and I'm hoping this year will be a turning point for that to where they can stay healthy and be big time contributors. But in all of that happening, you look at Cameron Brate and what Cameron Brate was able to do, coming in to be that security blanket for Jameis Winston at times.
Cam was okay for a couple of games. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love his story. I love the season that he had. But when Cam had a chance, once people started figuring out what was going on, Cam didn't get the separation. Cam didn't. Cam is not as talented as ASJ,
Right. Oh,
and,
and I'm not
and he's
saying
not.
that at all. I'm just saying that he did step up, and he was that security blanket. Now you have to consider too that Vincent Jackson wasn't 100%, and when you go from Vincent Jackson down to die, I mean that's even regardless of his
Yeah,
age, that's
yeah,
still a step down,
yeah,
and it's easier to defend against what you
yeah.
have on offense at that point. I do believe if you've got your receivers, your starting receivers, and I expect to see Kenny Bell in the mix and making plays, I think that it's going to give the tight end position a lot of play this year because I do know that Dirk Cutter loves to use the tight end, a la Tony Gonzalez.
He had a pretty good one in Atlanta, definitely. And I agree. I mean, injuries decimated that that receiving core last year. At one point on the field, you had Russell Shepard, DD, Dante Adai, and Adam Humphreys. I mean, I'm sorry, but none of
That's a
those
big
guys
step
scare
down.
me. not,
Another big
not,
step down.
so and listen, I mean, and those guys worked hard, and Russ Shepard does whatever you need him to do Love them to death. Uh, but you do need your top guns there. You
Right.
do need your Mike Evans, and you do need your. I still think you need Vincent for at least one more year
Yeah.
to make sure Mike is on that path to
Yeah.
glory.
Now let me ask you this one last question here. We're going to go back to free agency just for a second. Roddy White, is he a Buck? Could he step in? I mean, you look at Murphy with that catastrophic injury at his age. Does Murphy come back as strong as what he was prior to the injury, or do you go out and you get a Roddy White who still feels like he's got something in the tank and something left to prove? Is that a viable option for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
If Roddy White will come in and be comfortable with his third receiver role, then I have no problems with you bringing him in. But if he wants to challenge, or if he's going to be disgruntled by only catching 35 balls a year, then no, I'll go without him.
Yeah, I'm just the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. I'm not a big fan of his. I've never truly been a big fan of his, and I feel like there was some friction between offensive coordinator and wide receiver, which led to him being cut. Which some people I've heard say in Atlanta that they weren't expecting that, but it happened. So I really do believe, in reading the articles and seeing the interviews with Roddy White. Roddy White has something to prove. Kind of reminds me. I'm not going to compare the two, but it reminds me of when Steve Smith was let go from Carolina, and Steve
Mm-hmm.
Smith said, "Hey, I've got a lot to prove." And
Mm-hmm.
they both have that swagger. They both have that need to succeed. What I saw from Roddy White in both Atlanta Falcons games, this guy still, I think he could still produce if he's used properly. So, to me, I think it wouldn't be bad to give him a look. I don't see a problem with giving him a look.
Mm, for the right price, for the right
Yeah,
for the right price, and if he knows he because he's not going to be a number one or number two on this team.
right.
And,
I 100% agree with that.
and,
But
and if he understands that,
hmm,
then bring him in.
yeah, absolutely. But you've got a Kenny Bell, and if one of those if one of those wide receivers goes down, you've got somebody with the experience that can come in and at least keep that play level. You're not wanting to drop too far, but at least keep it to where defenses have to game plan for you. They have to know what you're doing. So to me, I wouldn't see. I would in the beginning when Dirk Cutter first got here, when Roddy White was first released, I was like, no, nah, that big mouth jerk. I don't want him here. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning. It's all about getting to the playoffs.
Yep.
Whatever it takes. If we had to bring Horace Copeland back and put him on the field, if we were going to win games, I'm good with it. I'm good
I
with it.
see.
And to be very honest, Roddy White is not. He's a high character guy. You don't see him on TMZ. You don't see him in front of Roger Goodell all the time. This is a guy that you know that you can get him out there and he's going to do what he has to do. And if you play to his strengths, it's good for both parties. You're stroking his ego and you're getting production out of him. So it works.
Yep. Time will tell if the Bucks make that move.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know they are. I know there's been contact, so I know that for sure.
and
So I
and
think
and so don't be surprised if it happened. I
don't
just
be
I
surprised.
really wanted to know what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting towards the end of the show, and I have to say that I've gotten a chance, and I don't know how you feel about this. I don't want to get into the reality TV or any of this other stuff, but I've had a chance to talk to Miko Grimes on Twitter. Miko Grimes is to me, she's been very classy. She's been very I love listening to her. I love her passion. I love the fact that she has a high football IQ. I know she gets into it with people, but when you get down and you talk X's and O's with her, and I've listened to her radio show when she was in Miami. I'm a big fan of hers. I'm glad she's here, and I don't see where this will be a problem. Now, you heard the general manager of the Miami Dolphins talking about this, that, and the other. I'm not going to get into that. What I will say is this: as long as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are winning, you're not going to have any problems. And
Look,
that's and that's how I feel about it. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that she was coming to Tampa. A lot of people were like, oh well, she's going to be a problem and this, that, and the other. You know what? That's who she is. You shouldn't be worried about what somebody else's wife is doing. You
mm,
should be worried about wins and losses.
mm,
Wins and losses are all that matter in the
preach,
NFL. In the
preach.
NFL, that you know what, and just the fact that the general manager is throwing shade on a woman who's not even playing, her husband is playing. It speaks volumes about where that team genuinely is. Now, what Jason like said, he's worried about wins and losses. I'm happy to hear somebody say that because that's what I'm worried about: wins and losses.
That's all that should matter. And so what if if Mrs. Grimes uh, throws shade against whoever on the team? You know, whatever. They're probably
Yeah.
not performing right. You know, you said it right.
Hello.
She does have a good a high football IQ. She isn't just a typical trophy wife or whatever like that. She's passionate about her husband and the success of their teams. And so, you know, it's not a problem unless you make it a problem. And
Absolutely.
so, what's the difference between a reporter throwing shade on the team or or a wife of a player? Just
Exactly.
just because we're in a Twitter world where we give celebrity status to everybody, and
Yeah.
not saying that she has or has not. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, it's not a problem unless we make it a problem.
Absolutely.
I have no problems with whoever saying whatever.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
Because ain't no love in these Twitter streets.
hey, a lot of Twitter thugs out there.
Yeah. Any of us can end up any of us can end up with the Jordan face at the end of the day.
And that's real. And that's real. I think I have mine on right now.
All right. Well, hey, Rick, thank you so much for being on, man. Are you, other than this, do you have any future products or projects? Are you writing anything coming up? Are you working on any podcasts or anything like that to kind of expand your brand a little bit?
Oh wow! I thank you for this minute. I've already mentioned today's pigskin.com. Hey, check me out the next few days. Let me see. Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday, I'm doing something that still got some material from the annual meetings that I think you will enjoy. So check me out today's pigskin.com. Also, IEYE on sports.com. Got a little bet with my co-host there, Fred Purdue, about where this guy Treadwell is going to be drafted. But check out that podcast. It gets a little heated at times, and I have to put the young boy in place. Uh,
Sometimes you got to do it.
also, well, two more things. I'm sorry. Insights.com. INSIIGHTS.com. Coach Clayton from Tallahassee is the head guy on this, and as much like this as a video chat, video talk where we just go at it. And last week he had his brother Kevin Clayton on, and two guys from Cleveland talking about Cleveland sports. It bored the hell out of me, but it was still funny as hell. So check out INSIIGHTS.com. Insights, two eyes in the middle. And please follow me on Twitter at RickBrown91. Hey, look, I do bite sometimes, but usually only with the full moon. Uh, I always say I'm gonna give it to you straight, no chaser. That's what I'm about. Love for you to join me. Check me out.
All right. Hey, thanks once again. Thanks a lot. And this is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. Once again, you follow me, I'll follow you back. Please give us some likes on the show. I thought this show was really insightful. This is somebody who is following the NFL on a official capacity, and I feel like this is something that fans want to talk about. This is something fans want to know about. And if you're new to the show, please check us out. Check out the video. It will be posting here on YouTube shortly. And Rick, hopefully I can get you on again prior to the draft, because
Okay.
I would really like to know. We know what you're talking about first round. I'm right there with you. I feel like we're drafting for the availability and the best player for the draft. So I think me and you agree on a lot of stuff that we talked about, and I'm really glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Gene. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want me, and I'm not doing any KA stuff or wifey stuff,
That's
I'm honored to
Hey,
join you, man.
that's the
Thank
most important thing right there. Last thing, be sure to listen to Rick Brown on Tan Talk Radio, 4 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear Sean the Sports Don, my man Peter Blake, and you will get the best insight from, once again, the Steph Curry of ESPN, Rick Brown, my man. Thanks
you.
for coming on. And everybody, thanks for checking me out. Give me some likes, thumbs up. Leave some comments. I'll catch you back. Leave some comments for me. I'll make sure I can get them to Rick Brown if you'd like.
Yeah.
And once again, thanks for everybody. And that's it for us. Have a good night.
Peace.